Okay, hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. My name is Otis Landerholm, and I am an immigration attorney. I'm a certified specialist in immigration and nationality law. It's an honor to be here with you today, all right, on another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. I'm filming this, it's the 5th of August of 2025. And so, welcome to our episode today of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Today, our topic is the Proposed Dignity Act, all right, which is just a proposal, but I want to share this proposal with you so you're informed about it, all right? And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. As I'm talking, as always, on the Empowered Immigrant Live, I'm here to answer any immigration question that you have, okay? So welcome. Thank you for being here. Remember, the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. Today, our theme is the Proposed Dignity Act, which you may have seen. It was reintroduced to the House just last week. I think it was the 15th of July, actually, so a couple weeks ago. And so I want to discuss that today. So thank you. Welcome. My question, as always, is do you want to get a green card? Do you want to apply for asylum? Do you want to apply for a U visa or VAWA? Or figure out what strategy is the best strategy for you to win status, to improve your life through immigration laws? Because if so, go for it. And if so, I'd love to help you with it. All right? My firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years, and we would love for your case to be one of them. All right? So thanks to everybody for being here. As I'm talking, if you have questions, feel free to submit them about your immigration case. I'll do my best to answer them. All right? And we'll do this episode in English, and then we'll do it in Spanish, and I'll move relatively quickly through the material so we can get to your questions. Okay? All right. So there's been so many changes, right? It's August. I can't believe it's August of 2025. And so that's, we're on the 8th month in to this current administration. And there's been so many changes that have happened. We are losing count of the quantity of changes that have happened just this year. It feels like a whole new law firm that I'm running right here this year because of all the changes that have happened. And there's yet another proposed change, all right? And so this is a proposal, so it is not passed. It was introduced, it has bipartisan support, so members on both sides of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, got together and have introduced this bill to the House of Representatives on July 15th. This bill, it would provide a legal pathway to permanent and renewable legal residence, but not citizenship. All right? So arguably it's not as good as this versions of this bill had been introduced in the past. But it would provide a legal pathway to permanent legal residence for undocumented immigrants in the U.S. since before the 31st of December of the year 2020, all right? As long as they meet certain other eligibility criteria, which hasn't been fully defined, but it involves certain criminal records, etc., could be disqualifying for the quote-unquote dignity status that people would be applying for. But that status, it grants them legal status. It grants them the ability to travel and re-enter the U.S. Just like as if they had a green card. But it does not grant people in that status to a pathway to apply for citizenship directly. They would have to apply in some other way for a green card. Okay? Also in the bill, there is it does create a pathway to green cards and citizenship for DACA and Dreamers, all right? Both of those are kind of the interesting, and I would call them the good sides of the bill, if you want to term them that, although they're not as good as I was hoping they would be, but they are the good side of the bill. The compromise there is, and the kind of less good side of the bill, is that it would radically change how asylum seekers are processed at the border. Okay, most asylum seekers would never have the right to see a judge. And it changes the process. I won't explain it in depth. It is quite nuanced. And it would mandate E-Verify nationwide. And E-Verify, you'll remember, requires that employers who are in the E-Verify program verify the validity of a person's immigration status and social security number in order to provide work. Right, and so that would be a big deal, big change. All right, and the kind of third category of compromises is that it would create new criminal penalties for certain immigration violations: crossing the border illegally, smuggling immigrants, committing fraud in an immigration case, especially an asylum case. Each of these would have severe criminal penalties, including federal felony convictions and charges for people that are found to have done those things. Okay, and so that's the basics of how the Dignity Act is written, and so I wanted to share it. We can get into the more nuance of it as it continues to move forward and as it continues to be defined by Congress. And the big question, of course, right now it's just a proposal. So the big question is, what is the likelihood that it actually moves forward and actually passes into something? And my answer, my opinion, Otis's answer, is that the likelihood is very small, folks. As you're aware, it's very difficult for Congress to pass laws. They've been passing several during this administration. But nonetheless, in my opinion, the answer that this particular bill actually passes, in my opinion, is very small. It would need a lot more support from both sides of Congress, but especially from the Republican Party, to go anywhere, right? And right now, Congress, and especially the Republican Party, seems very reluctant to do anything for immigration law except deport more people, all right? And again, that's only my opinion. I'd love to be proven wrong about that, but those are my thoughts about it. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share today. Feel free to ask me your questions, and thank you so much for joining in today. If you're joining right now, thank you so much for being here. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding immigration attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream, and I'm really happy to be here with each of you today. All right, so Tarina Williams, I see you here. You say hello, good afternoon. It's still morning where I am, but good afternoon to you if it's afternoon where you are. So that's great. Maria Lacerda, you say good morning. ICE arrests. Let me see. Will ICE arrests in the past show up on a background check? Yeah, they typically do. All right, I see that when I run an FBI background check, for example, it will often show up that there was an ICE arrest if they ran your fingerprints. Okay? And you say, looking for a job with a work permit, want to know if it will affect my search. Typically not. All right? Typically not. If you have a valid work permit and you're applying for a job, then you're eligible for that job. Certain jobs might say, hey, if you've been convicted of a felony, or, then they might restrict, depending on where you're located, your ability to get that job. But if you have one arrest that was immigration related, but now you have a valid work permit, you're good. You are legally authorized to work. All right, that's what your work permit signifies. And so don't worry about applying for the job. Do it, go for it. And if anybody asks you questions about the legality of your work, then show them your work permit And if they still have questions, have your lawyer write you a letter or write a letter to your HR department of the company to explain your legal authorization to work. Okay? So Maria, I hope that's helpful. You should be 100% okay as long as that work permit is lawful. All right? Mohammed, I see your question here. You say, we had our interview 5 months ago and we haven't got a decision yet based on marriage. Why? Yeah, that's a great question. It is uncommon. You're outside of normal processing times. And, sometimes a case that has an interview, sometimes we'll get a green card there within 2 weeks. All right? But other times, I see it. And I have many cases where it goes, and sometimes it'll take a year. Sometimes it'll take more than a year. All right? And often on those cases, the question becomes why? And sometimes there are complications in a case. And sometimes there are issues that need to be looked at in more depth. Sometimes the officer that was adjudicating your case, got fired or quit or got sick or left, and it was sort of outside of their control. Other times there's a legal issue where they've got to run it by their supervisor. They've got to, do additional background checks about something. They've got to, go through a more in-depth process. Sometimes they send cases to what they call their fraud detection unit, and so that causes serious delays. Hopefully that's not your situation. So you're right to ask why, but the correct answer to the question why is, well, we should run FOIAs, Freedom of Information Act requests, to figure out the answer to the question why, so that we can run a request to immigration, see all the records in your case, and see if there's something there that might have triggered some additional need to research your situation. Okay? So, that's the best I can share right now without knowing the details of your situation or your case. All right, Brazuca, I see your question. You say, good afternoon. Do you know why the consulate interview on an approved I-601A is taking so long? The consulates do not interview on an approved I-601A, all right? The consulates interview a person after the I-601A is approved for the green card, for your immigrant visa. And so why does it take so long to get approved? So the question there is, typically when you go to the interview, it's quick, typically. And so the question in your situation is, have you gone to the interview yet and you're still waiting for the approval? Or are you waiting for the consulate to schedule your interview? Because if you're waiting for it to be scheduled, there's just a long backlog, right? And every country throughout the world has embassies and consulates that have different processing times. So depending on where you're located, depending on where you're located and which country you're processing the case through, it might take a year. It might take 2 years, right? And so, and if it's longer than that, then you can, and if it's longer than the normal processing times, and I see you're saying that the State Department already accepted all the paperwork, good. So they declared it as documentarily qualified with the NVC. So that's good. The next step then is they will follow up with the embassy in your country to get the interview scheduled, but it's going to go back at the end of the line to be scheduled for an interview at the next available interview, which sometimes is a year away, right? Depending on which country you're applying at, right? And there are ways to expedite it. We have a case right now of a child whose mother passed away, all right? And we're filing an expedite request, and this is a case in Mexico, Ciudad Juarez, and we're asking Ciudad Juarez, the consulate, the U.S. consulate in Mexico, to expedite the child's interview because he needs to be with his father, who's in the U.S., his mother, who's in Mexico, passed away. And so we'll see. Right? We're trying that right now. So So anyway, hope that answers your question, Brazuca, and thank you so much for being here. All right, Mohammed, you ask, unfortunately, I was the victim from my wife. I didn't apply for VAWA last year and continues on marriage. Well, do you think that was the reason? Oh, if they, that's a good question. That's a good question. If immigration believes that you're separating or something, right? Then that could slow a case down, a marriage-based case down. But if you're eligible for VAWA and you're still married and you're still eligible, you could still apply for VAWA, right? So worst case scenario, if they deny the marriage-based case for some reason, you'd have to look at why they would deny it. You could maybe appeal it, but you might also still be eligible for VAWA. Yeah, good. All right, Alma Villarreal, I see your question. What is the risk of traveling with an approved letter for renewal of a green card? What is the risk of traveling with an approval letter for the renewal of your green card? Well, I'm glad that it was approved, but you don't have the original card. Like if it's an emergency, right? Sometimes what we do in our office is we apply for what we call an addit stamp. You could research that. It's a stamp in your passport, not just the approval notice. It's a stamp in your passport that you can show and prove that you are a lawful permanent resident of the U.S. But if you recently got your approval, then your green card should be coming in the mail like right away, like typically within days after the approval letter comes in. But if you need to travel on an emergency basis, like before the card comes in, I would say look into getting an ADIT, A-D-I-T stamp done in your passport. If you need help navigating that, feel free to reach out to our firm. We have done this. We do this for our clients when they need to expedite something. All right, Brazuca, I see your concern. Thank you. I'm afraid to expedite it because I'd hate for them to deny it based on that. Yeah, typically they would deny the expedite request, but they would keep your case pending, in the regular line if you have a justification to expedite it. If you don't really have a justification to expedite it, then it's not worth doing. All right, because they'll deny it. All right, Bunny Luna, you say, hello, my friends have refugee status with an I-94 indefinitely since 2006. I didn't know she has to apply for permanent residency. Sad story, but can she apply now or is it too late? She can apply now, 100%. Yeah, if you have refugee status, and as long as she's eligible, as long as she's, adjustment eligible, then as long as after you have refugee status, then I think you have to wait 1 year, and then you're eligible for asylee status. I know it's a year. For refugee status, you might even be able to do it sooner than that. But yeah, there's no penalty for not doing it earlier, right? As you said, refugee status is indefinite, so it's a permanent status unless she committed some particularly serious crime or violated the terms of her refugee status in some way. But absent that, she should be eligible and should be okay. If you want help with that application for her permanent residency, feel free to reach out, right? My team is very good at cases like that. Okay? Veronica Yonibelli, thank you very much for being here. You say letters of support from family friends for my application have to be written by U.S. citizens only, or can residents and other immigration statuses also write support letters? And how would USCIS know? Great question. We have family members and friends of all kinds of immigration statuses write letters of support, okay, for a case. So it's often not a requirement. And often in our letters of support, we would say in your first sentence, I am this person and I have TPS, or I am this person and I have a green card. And if the answer is I don't have any immigration status, then just say I am this person and I am related to Veronica because I am her niece. Something like that, and just be silent as to the immigration status. yeah, often it is not a requirement in just a letter of support, for example, to show good moral character or something like that. Okay, great question. Mohammed, you say, also, I sent a request to the senator and they replied, extended reviewing on the I-485. Okay, so they're still reviewing it, which often means that something is weird about your I-485, and it might be the relationship issue you mentioned. Yep, might be. I don't know. We could run FOIAs and get to the bottom of that, or try to, right? All right, Alma Villarreal, you say, yeah, I applied in April. My green card expired in June. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so you could do if you applied in April and the green card renewal has already been approved, then that's very fast. All right, typically you just get receipt notices by now. Normally the green card renewal process is taking a long time. And so take a close look to make sure that you actually have an approval notice. If you don't have an approval notice, then I would definitely say don't travel without getting an addit stamp in your passport first. That is a stamp by immigration showing that you are a lawful permanent resident of the United States. Okay, so that's my best advice. All right, and Brazuca, you say, I appreciate it. Take care. All right, same to you. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so everybody, thank you all so much for being here with me today. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And okay, Mohammed E, you say, hi, I have a refugee, or you have refugee status. All right, good. All right, that's awesome. So, all right, and Bunny Luna, you say, thank you, I'll send her to you because she is scared. I got that. Yep, I'm sorry that she's scared by everything going on. There is a lot of fear out there, right? And it's and with reason, there's a lot of fear out there. It's a scary time in our world. And so, okay, Veronica, you ask a follow-up question. Do they actually call people or organizations on the letters? They could. And sometimes I like to invite that. Like when I have letters of support that I write for our clients or that my team writes for our clients, we'll often include the phone number. Hey, officer, please call me if you have any other questions. I'm more than happy to share. I'm more than happy to share my thoughts about this person who's applying for a green card. And so sometimes they'll actually do it, often not, but I like to invite immigration to make that phone call. But that's a personal thing, right? That's a personal thing. So if somebody's undocumented and they have concerns about that, then they don't necessarily have to do that. All right, Alma Villarreal, you say, yes, I misspoke. It's a processing letter. It says I can travel with it, but I'm concerned. So if it's the receipt notice and you have the original receipt notice, then, if you travel with the original receipt along with your passport, I've seen that be okay. All right, I have seen that be okay, but yeah. Often, out of an abundance of caution, we recommend getting the addit stamp, as I mentioned. All right, let's see. Mohammed, you say, is it taking so long because I didn't send 2 forms? I came on an A2 visa. Well, that very well could be, right? Maybe they're preparing a request for evidence to request those 2 forms from you, right? If your application was incomplete, then they can't adjudicate it. Right, and so if your application was incomplete, then you probably won't get your green card yet. Okay. All right. Cool. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. So if you're just tuning in, my name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. If you got any value out of this, I would love it if you take a moment, go to our channel in YouTube, type in Landerholm Immigration into YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you can be notified when we upload additional videos with news, with updates, with things that are going on. so that you can stay informed about immigration laws. All right? And as always, if you are an immigrant, if you are looking for advice or help with your case or to determine your options, please feel free to reach out to my firm. We are here to help, and we would love to help. All right? That's all I got for today. Thank you all so much. I'll do this episode again in Spanish in just a few minutes. And so if you speak Spanish, feel free to join me there. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you next time on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot, everybody. Make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.